Alright, so now we're gonna go on to multiple operations with fractions. I know some of you guys do not like this, but it is okay. I promise, I promise, I promise. I will show you a picture way to solve this as a fraction and also as a decimal, right? So let's go ahead and read the question. Mrs. Flores made a double batch of cookies. So she didn't just make one batch of cookies, she made 2 batches of cookies. All right, so she used 1 3/4 cups in each batch. All right, before she made the cookies, she had 5 2/3 cups of flour. How much flour does she have left? So let's make some sense of this question. So Miss Flores made 2 batches of cookies. For each of those, so for each batch of her cookies, she used 1 3/4 cups here and 1 3/4 cups here. To make all of her cookies, she had 5 2/3 cups of flour, but she only used 1 3/4 for this one and 1 3/4 for this one. So we want to know, hey, after she put the flour into her batches, how much was left over, all right? So let's draw some pictures because I like pictures, all right? So let's do, this is her flour, right? This is just gonna be her bag of flour. Let's draw some little seeds, some little flour. This is Miss Flores's bag of flour. Remember, her flour was 5 2/3, all right? So she had 5 2/3 cups of flour, which is this, and she wants to make cookies. Remember, she wants to make 2 batches of cookies. So this is a batch of cookies, and this is another batch of cookies, all right? Each batch of these cookies, so let's see, she used 1 3/4 cups of flour in each batch. So in this batch, she used 1 3/4, and in this batch, she used 1 3/4, all right? We want to know, after she pours the flour in here and she pours flour in this one, how much flour is she going to have left? So I know, first I need to figure out how much flour does she need. So I know I need to add, right? So remember the way that we add fractions? So let's write side notes. So the way that we add fractions is by finding a common denominator. Find your common denominator. Then we want to change our numerators. And then we want to add our wholes and numerators only. So we're not going to worry about adding the denominators. We're just going to add our wholes and numerators only, all right? So let's look at our first step. Find a common denominator. So do these 2 fractions have the same denominator? Yes, both of those denominators are the same. They are both 4. So with that being said, I do not have to change my numerators. Only time I will change my numerators is if I am changing my denominators, which I'm not, so I don't have to worry about it. Now I can go on to the last step. Add our whole numbers and numerators only, all right? So our whole numbers here is a 1 and a 1. So if I add those, it is 2. And then if I add my numerators, remember numerators is your numbers at the top. 3 plus 3 is 6. And then I just want to keep my common denominator, which that was just 4, because they had both of those denominators in common, all right? So now we have 2 and 6/4. Now, I want you guys to look at this question, and I want y'all to think back to maybe the first or second video. What kind of fraction is this? This is an improper fraction. Remember, when your numerator is bigger than your denominator, it is improper. So we want to change this back to mixed number, right? Remember, we're going to do top and bottom out. I know the examples that we've done, it did not have any remainders, but this one will have a remainder. And when we're changing stuff to a mixed number, we don't want decimals. Like, that is not our goal. We just want to figure out how many wholes we can take out, all right? So 4 can go into 6 one time. 4 times 1 is just 4, but we have a remainder of 2, right? So I know 6/4. With 6/4, I can make another whole, and it's 2 left over, and I just want to keep that same denominator, right? So the way that I explain this to my class is just thinking about kids, right? So in my class, I have 6 kids, and I only want a group of 4, right? So in that classroom, I can only take out one group of 4, and it'll be 2 students left over, and then I'm just going to keep my denominator the same. So that's how I explain it in my class. If you want to do the division, you are more than welcome to, but sometimes explaining it as groupings help, all right? So this 6/4 is the same as just saying 1 2/4, all right? So now I can just add that 1 2/4 back. So let's change this. So this 6/4 is the same as 1 2/4, but I still want to add my 2 to that, all right? So if I add my 2, which is a whole, my final thing would be 3 2/4, all right? So that means I use 3 2, well, Miss Flores used 3 2/4 cups of flour to make her cookies. Now we want to see how much she has left over, all right? So let's head over here. So to start us off, she had 5 2/3 worth of flour, and she used 3 2/4, right? So we know we want to subtract. We want to figure out how much is left over. Same thing with your with added. You need to follow your steps. So this also works for subtraction. All right, so find the common denominator. Do these fractions have the same denominator? No, they do not. So we're going to find that. So we're going to come over here and start writing our list, all right? So 3, count by 3s. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. Now let's start on our 4s. 4, 8, 12, 16. Do we see something in common? Yes, so our common denominator will be 12. So we want to change those fractions so that it has the number 12 at the bottom. So I'm going to take this over here. 2/3, I want to change it so that it has a 12 at the bottom, all right? So the way that I got from 3 to 12 was times 4. I still want to do that at the top. So now my new fraction would just be 8/12 for that one. Now let's change our other one. So we had 2/4. I want to change it so that it's a 12 at the bottom. 4 times 3 gives me 12. So I still want to use that same scale factor, all right? 2 times 3 is 6, all right? So now I'm going to rewrite my fractions, and then I'm going to use these new ones, all right? So using these new ones, I know I have 5 as my whole, remember? Then I changed the 2/3 to 8/12. Then I have 3, and I changed my 2/4 to just 6/12. Now I can just simply subtract them, all right? 5 minus 3 is 2. Only working with our numerators. 8 minus 6 is 2. And keep my denominators, all right? So our final answer should be 2 2/6. As we see, that's not an answer to us, but we see one close. So we're just going to scratch out A, C, and D. We know it's going to be B, but I'm going to show you guys why, all right? So our final answer was 2 2/12, but that's not simplified. 2/12 can be simplified. Remember, simplifying is what can you divide both of these numbers by. You can divide both of these numbers by 2, so let me do that. 2 divided by 2 is 1, and 12 divided by 2 is 6. And I'm keeping that whole number. Now it's just going to be 2 and 1/6 after I simplify it, which again gives me B. So that was as your picture, and after we drew our pictures, we started working on everything. This process can be really, really hard. That's why we tell you guys to be organized. My work is very organized. It's color-coded. I always do my work on its sides. If I need to separate anything, it's all there for me. This one may be the hardest thing because we know for a fact that you guys do not like fractions. But at the very end of this tutorial, I will will give you a notes page that you will write down as a study guide that will help you with fractions, that will help you with decimals, that will help you with keywords. As long as you study it, you should be absolutely fine, all right?